budget workshop is called to order at 2:04. Will the interim city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Here.
Vice Mayor Douthert?
Present.
Commissioner Oakley?
Here.
Commissioner Lister?
Here.
Mayor Black?
Here. First item is the presentation of goals and objectives for the 2018 legislative session.
Still not on.
Is it not working? Oh, there it goes. All right, sorry about that. Well, thank you all for the invitation. This is my first time ever having the opportunity to present to the entire commission. So I really appreciate it. I hope we do more of this. I want to talk a little bit about the legislative session in 2018, the upcoming session, and going forward in the city's priorities. But I know there are a lot of new faces, and so I kind of thought we'd take a step back and talk about what we've done in previous years, so that you all have a better understanding of what we do and how we've operated in the past and where we've been successful and where we've had some challenges. And so this was our third session working together, and the first session we were able to get about $145,000, I believe it was, for a water project on American Legion Drive. That project the engagement came very, very late. We actually started that right in the middle of session. There was a shortfall, I believe, in that funding, and the staff at the time asked if we could move forward and try to help get that funded through the state legislature. That's my job. That's what I do. My job is to work with you all in identifying your priorities, working with the staff to get all the information about those priorities, and try to get the legislature to fund that, to take some of that burden off of you all as a commission and as a city. And so the first project we worked on was the American Legion Stormwater Project. We got that in the budget. Like I said, I think it was $145,000. The next year was the John Pass Village lighting project that I know you're all familiar with. That's going to kick off on Saturday, I heard. That's going to be great. That was, I believe, that was a little over $300,000 from the state legislature. So we were very, very excited to get that project funded and approved by the governor. This year, there was an issue with the ball field lights and some of the surrounding. I know some folks that live in the area were concerned with that. We tried to fix that problem. We got $200,000 in the state budget for it. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed over $400 million worth of local projects to pave the way for some things that he wanted to get done, and we fell victim to that. Along with it was a 9-page veto list. So unfortunately, almost every project in Pinellas County actually was vetoed. That has nothing to do with Pinellas County. You could extrapolate that across the entire state. It was just it was a very bad year. As you probably read about or heard, the governor and the House and the Senate didn't really get along, and sometimes these local projects fall by the wayside because of that. And so unfortunately, we were vetoed this year. The 2018 session is early, so that normally session is March to May, and the budget year is July 1. This year, because it's an election year, they're moving it back to January to February. So we're about to start that process all over again very, very quickly. The week of September 11th will be the first committee week in Tallahassee, and they will start the budget process shortly thereafter. Probably in October, they'll begin vetting some of these projects. So we've had some discussions with staff. I was here a couple weeks ago, and we sat down and went through some things. I think we're banding around some ideas of exactly where we want to focus. My suggestion is that we always pick 3 to 5 projects, and then sit down with the legislative delegation to decide what it is they're interested in. Obviously, Senator Brandis is the chairman of the Transportation and Economic Development Committee that funds a lot of these projects. So having his buy-in and support, as well as Senator Latvala, who's the chairman of the full Senate Appropriations Committee, is very helpful. Representative Kathleen Peters, who I think spoke to you all not long ago, obviously her support in the House is very, very helpful. So what we have done in the past, and what I think we would continue to do, is to sit down with that group, with our delegation, the folks who make those decisions when they put pen to paper on the budget, and figure out of those 3 to 5 priorities that we think can help the city, what are they interested in, and we work from there. We work on our priorities, their priorities together, and I think from what I just mentioned, just in the 3 sessions we've been doing this, that's been very successful. Right now, I think we're talking about the ball field lights are still an issue. I think we're gonna add that back to the list. For the last few years, we've been working, well, I shouldn't say we're going to add that to the list. That's a decision for you all to make. You tell me what your priorities are. But I think the conversation we've had the ball field lights are certainly still an issue. One issue that we have worked very hard on over the last few years is the refurbishment of the sand groins on the beach. We had an issue with the Department of Environmental Protection in Tallahassee, where there were some funding challenges there. They didn't think we qualified for a certain grant program. We thought we did. We had a lot of conversation. I think we've finally gotten that solved. I feel fairly comfortable that if we put that on our list this year, I think we had asked for $1 million. I think if we put that on our list this year, we've got a very good chance of actually getting that funded, at least partially. You know, I want to talk about another element of our approach in a second, which is key to this. But then also, I know there's some upgrades to the ball field, the restroom facilities, and some things that need expansion because of the great work you all and staff have been doing in getting those games here and getting folks from around the state and around the country to come here and play. There's some expansion needed. I think that's something the state could look at from an economic return. They love those types of programs. Anything where we can show that ROI that's bringing more visitors in, more revenue to the city, those are the things the state's going to be interested in. As a part of that, as a part of our overall strategy, one of the things that I would also like the city to consider is that we work on having more interaction not only with our local delegation, which you all do, but with our legislature as a whole. For example, in September, the chairman in the Senate, who is over all of the environmental preservation and natural resources funding, Senator Rob Bradley from Jacksonville, he's going to be I know he's going to be here for a few days for a series of events. I'm going to be with him. I would love to have him come by and actually see the beach groins, to walk on the beach, see the state of disrepair, so that he can understand when he's making decisions on his budget of what he's going to fund, that he knows what he's funding and what we're working on. I think that's important. I think having Senator Latvala come from North County and see the ball field and see the beach groins and see some of the things that are going on here, see John's Pass and the success that project is going to be and has been, I think is important. I think it'll help relate what it is we're trying to do to the legislature. So that I would hope that we can be a little more interactive in that sense. That hasn't been the case in the past for no reason, not one reason or another. It just hasn't been a huge priority. But I think it's something we should do going forward, is to have those members of the delegation. You have a member of North Pinellas, Chris Sprouse, who's slated to be the Speaker of the House in 3 years. Having him come down now and early and understand better the challenges and the successes that you all have as a city will help us in the ensuing years and getting things done that we need to get done. So I know we're going to continue to work on the priorities and identify those 3 to 5. Obviously, with input from everyone, it should be a very inclusive process. Everybody has ideas, and we're happy to vet those. And my job is to give you a sense of what the legislature will probably fund and what they absolutely won't fund. We look at that objectively and come up with that list. One of the other areas that I talked with staff about a couple weeks ago was not an expansion of what we do, because it's lobbying is lobbying. My job is to help you interact with state government, no matter what that means. Generally, that's appropriations. But if you have challenges with the Department of Transportation, if there's a road issue or a lighting issue or something at DOT that seems to be taking too long to get approved, I work with District 7 all the time. I probably call over there once a week to help someone in Pinellas County with some issue. Please call on me and our team to help do that sort of thing. If there's an issue at DEP, if there's an issue anywhere in state government, or even sometimes with the county, we can help some there, not as much, but really any of those issues. I don't want you all to sit back and think that this is just an appropriations issue. This is really about how you all interact with state government and state agencies, and how we can use our relationships and our experience in working with them to help you all operate more smoothly. So really, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of where we are in the process. All right. Easy enough. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, Alan. I know it's imperative that we get in there during committees as opposed to when the session starts. Is there some way that you can prioritize like the top 5 committees and send them down to us? And do we need a letter from the commissions, inviting Senator Latvala here?
Yeah, I think that so yes, I can absolutely prioritize the committees where we spend the most of our time and operate. That's easy enough to do. And yeah, I think anytime we have events like the John Pass lighting that's going to go on Saturday, I think those are the areas where we can get engaged to help you all facilitate those invitations, to make sure that we have reasons to bring them down. And if there's not something like that coming up that might attract them to come down anyway, we can always work on a tour, or like I said, if somebody's going to be in town, if I know that Rob Bradley's going to be here, well, let me call them and say, hey, I need an hour of your time to come out to the beach and look at this project. That's part of what we do. So yeah, I absolutely, I don't, we can send an official letter, we can do all those sort of things, but sometimes just a phone call or an email is good enough to, get on his schedule or get on whoever schedule we need to get on.
I know Kathleen's very responsive when we ask, but, I'm not really close with Senator LaValle.
Yep. But we got one more year of him as the approach chair, so.
Certainly helps to make those phone calls.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Next, we have overview of the budget process.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. This is one of the first of several budget meetings that we'll have as we go through this budget process. You're going to get a lot of information today, and we're probably not going to get through everything possible. I've asked Walt Pierce to keep the process moving forward and try not to let us get bogged down with some of the details so that we're not here and we're out by at least 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. But I'll tell you that every budget process that I've ever been involved with, I've always asked my county administrator or city manager, what kind of budget do you expect from me? Do you expect a budget with additional fluff put in there that you can go back and make cuts to? Or do you want me to provide you a realistic budget that is reflective of the levels of service and the expectations that the city citizens have of the services and the level of service that we provide to them? And most always they've come back and said, provide us with a realistic budget of what you need to do your job to the standard that we expect from you. We have given that direction to each one of the department heads, and they've done a very good job as far as coming back in here and providing the additional information to us to give us exactly what they need to do currently what they have within their organization and in their departments. So with that said, I will turn this over to Mr. Pearson. He will begin with basically what we're going to do today is start with our revenue sources. So with that.
Okay. I just wanted to start off just by saying that what I gave you is very much a working document. I've already made some adjustments to it. And after Friday's workshop, probably a quick turnaround, probably within a week and a half, the tentative budget will come to you, hopefully on the 11th, and that's when it will be approved, and the millage rate will be adopted through a resolution. And I guess the first, thing a finance director needs to be concerned about, can you keep the millage rate the same? Do you need to increase it? And I think what we're about to show you today is we can accomplish everything we want to accomplish for this budget and keep the millage rate the same. So that's a major hurdle. If we did make the change to change the millage, then the July 11th, when we come and have the tentative budget approved and the millage rate adopted, would be more important. Because if we change the millage, that kind of sends a message to the property appraiser, and that impacts the tax notices that go out to the public. So I just wanted to give you a brief outline. We do have a budget workshop too again on Friday. Hope we can wrap everything else up. We have our financial advisor also coming to speak on Friday. We'll talk about pretty much the debt that we have. He's an expert on that, and give you guys an opportunity to ask him any questions. He's been the financial advisor through helping Vince, former finance director, through some of the debt that the city has, and he's an expert in communicating and what the status is of that. So heading after the tentative budget, just so you know, after the tentative budget is approved and adopted, there still will be changes between when that's adopted and the proposed budget, which will be in September. September, we'll have 2 public hearings, and that's another opportunity for the public to voice any comments or questions in the building of our budget. Are really the key meetings going forward, of course, the July one, and then the September, just so you know. On the budget booklet, budget information I gave you, I tried to give you, we estimate what the ad valorem calculation is, or the increases, and on page 2, I just give you an estimate of how I calculated that estimate and how I took the taxable value that was provided by the property appraiser, and then keeping the millage rate the same at 2.2, and I was able to come up with the total estimated property tax revenue for FY 2018 of $2,453,499. Going forward, on the next page, just so you know, this budget is pretty much balanced with revenues and expenditures. We'll still have some minor adjustments between now and the tentative budget. We might have an adjustment with the EMS. They may increase the EMS coordinator contribution from 25% up to 50. That would give us some additional dollars. I have yet to receive that. Hopefully I'll get that before the end of the week. But you see at the bottom of page 3, last year, I tried to compare the budget right now to, in summary, on page 3, how it compared to 2007, or this budget, and you can see that it very much looks like our budget will be the 9.947783. It won't be significantly higher than that unless there's something major that has to be added to the budget. And if you look at the fund year 2017, there was a little overage of 89,000. That 89,000 actually got tossed into fund balance. And what I'd like to point out is there is an overage of $6,000 here through efficiency through operation. I would kind of like that to be increased a little bit, maybe even surpass that 89,000, hopefully so that we can add more into the fund balance. I don't need to tell you that I do think the fund balance is going to be decreased a little bit at the end of the year based on some of the expenditures that we've had. Going forward, on page 4, going over into more detail of the revenue, you can see on page 4 the operating ad valorem, the 2.453499 figure, and that is about a little over 8.23% over the revised that we received in this 2017. Going down this, just major things to point out. If you have any questions, I'll address them, but I thought I'd just point out, in the interest of time, things that I find important. One is the fire inspection fees. We increased that up to $25,000. The chief has asked for an additional position, a fire marshal position, and right now we're really not keeping up with the inspections that we should, and that's why I increased that, so that, hoping that that position kind of pays for itself. Did you want to say anything about that, or?
Basically, we already spoke about that in one of the previous workshops. We had a fire inspector position here previously, and that is, there are inspection fees that are associated with those fire inspections. Fire inspections are a huge issue for us. Not only is it concerned about life safety issues, but it also is concerns us about our insurance service organization rating within the community, which sets our insurance premiums for residential and commercial property. So it's kind of imperative that we get that position filled again. And hopefully it will be a self-sustaining type of position, or at least minimize the costs that we're going to have to expend for that unit. And
we're kind of hoping that that 25,000 is a conservative figure. It has the potential of being higher than that. In the intergovernment revenue, some of those figures, like the communications tax, the state revenue sharing, and the half-cent sales tax, I kept pretty much those numbers the same. Those numbers will change, but very slightly. So maybe even after the tentative budget, between the tentative budget and the final budget, those figures will change. In there too is well, you see the EMS budget from Pinellas County. That's the 246, I'm sorry, the EMS for Pinellas County, that's the 413,491. And then the fire protection from the Reddingtons, that's the 246,211. And those figures, the figure for the fire protection for the revenue, for the Reddingtons is a pretty good figure. Going forward, on page 5, beach walkover chair rental agreement, that's going from 10,000 to 15,000. There is a provision in the contract where it would go up to 12,000, but based on a calculation in the contract, we would actually get 15, it would go up to 15,000 on that. Administrative service allocation, I pretty much kept that the same. That's the amount that we asked for the other funds to chip in to help the general fund on an FTE basis. And again, I pretty much kept that the same. I didn't really feel the need at the present time to ask for more to add in there. And then the parking enforcement, I spent a lot of attention on this because I knew this is a big revenue maker for the city. We are projecting an increase of 5.61%. There's a couple of line items here that, you know, I felt when Vince was going through the budget this year, he was on target on a couple of accounts, but I felt a couple of accounts, particularly the parking meters at Village Boulevard, was actually taking in a little bit more. You can see on the actual 2016, that's what we actually received through September. And, you know, I use that as a guide in estimating what our budget should be. One area that really has increased is the parking fines. And we had 90,000 in this year's budget, 90,500 in this year. We actually took in 147,000. And we're on track right now to actually match that. We're going to actually fill a position in there that has been vacant, and we're hoping that that position will pay for itself. Going forward, fines and forfeitures, pretty much kept that, that's a little bit of increase there. Culture and recreation, this is Doug's area, and Doug alluded to a little bit of this yesterday when he talked. Clearly, some of the major areas here that increased was his summer program, and field rentals, and special event fees. So overall, we're projecting over 20% increase in that area based on figures that Doug ran and provided. Then going forward, interest earnings, that's increasing a little bit, which is a good thing. Miscellaneous revenue, probably the most notable thing there to point out is the rent for Tango Bay. That's going up a little bit from 108 to 110,000. A lot of that other stuff is miscellaneous. On page 6, the one thing I wanted to point out, if you noticed on the summary page a little of the drop in revenue, that is attributed to that $350,000, which is state appropriation. That was the money that we received for the Johns Pass lighting. And that's why we didn't carry that over, because that project is completed. And then yesterday, I indicated the penny for Pinellas. I said there was a little over 400,000, a little bit incorrect. We've actually spent a little bit over, we've actually spent 443,000. Our allocation is that figure you see there, which is the 659,900. I guess when I was thinking 400, I was thinking of the money that we had already been reimbursed. if we do not get, if we spend less than that amount, then, in other words, we've already spent the 400,000. If we don't spend up to the 659, it rolls over. So the bottom line is the total funding sources is the 9,947,783. Then into the expenditures by department. Overall, there's been some increases, decreases there. Basically an increase of 3%. And going down the list, we have some transfers to cover debt and FEMA flood mitigation program. And so our total expenditures is 9,941,749, and again, that's a little less than the total revenue. I did want to point out that we did get. I did want to point out too, and the press usually drives me crazy about this, and for council's information, every time I prepare a budget, the press always wants to know, well, what does this mean to the average, to a property owner who has a property of $100,000 taxable value? With our increase, it basically turns out to be, for a property with a $100,000 taxable value, it's basically an increase of $18, just so you know. And I verified that with the property appraiser's office this morning, which is an increase of a little over 8%. In total, adding all the school board and other taxes, the health department, juvenile welfare, Suncoast Transit Authority, it comes out to be at $146. I did want to point out that we did get health increases or medical increases. The cost of our coverage for our employees that the city pays is basically increasing, and bless you. I was glad to hear that it was only increasing by 3%. So currently, we were paying in per employee $756.22. That's going up to $778.90. And then we had an increase in FRS rates, where the FRS coverage was 7.52%. That's going up to 7.92%. And the drop is going from 12.99 to 13.26%. So I did want to mention those increases to you. Going into the department, does anybody have any questions on the revenues at all? Well, going into the departments, city manager's office, what we did look at there is decreasing professional services from 10 to 5. And we were looking at actual expenditures that were happening during the year. We felt like we could do that. And the only other area we decreased was promotions and public relations. We decreased that down to $15,000. As far as staff, we had a volunteer coordinator in that position half-time that indicated that no longer wanted to be paid. So that makes, from a standpoint of a paid position, that's no longer a paid position. And I guess for future reference, the budget for that city manager is pretty much at the same level that Shane was at, just for your information. Community development, most notable thing there basically was we're putting in for a half-time new director position, which would be split 50-50 between.
Well, where are you at exactly?
I'm sorry, on page 12. And basically, there's a higher increase there for salary and wages for new director position, which would be half-time in community development, half-time in building. And the professional services, hopefully, which has been increased due to consultants that we have in there now, hopefully that would drop, but I kept that at 60,000, thinking that there would be some overlap between the consultant and when the new director arrives. Increased travel and training, basically for the new director. Planning and zoning, some other line items for dues and subscriptions, we also increased a little bit, again, for that new director. Going forward into finance. And finance, the change in salary and wages there, we did bump up, actually a little bit before I got here, Karen's salary a little bit. And I actually took less of a salary than the former director was making, so that some of that money could go toward an upgrade for Patrick. And then the operating, the increases in accounting and auditing and other contractual services, that's basically our auditor, who is under a, I believe, a 3-year contract, and his contract goes up just a little bit each year, and that's what those increases are. I did want to throw out to council, by the way, as I'm going through this, basically what I'm looking for is direction from council and a consensus that if you want to change, I guess I should have mentioned this at the start. If you want to change or to add something, or you think that something should be deducted, I guess what I'm looking for is direction and a consensus from you. If you feel strongly about something that something needs to change, or you want us to take another look at something, that's the direction we're looking for here, okay? What I was thinking of doing in finance was, right now, Karen's title is financial coordinator, and I actually wanted to change that to HR/payroll coordinator, and actually to provide more emphasis toward HR and some of more of the tasks and duties that have to be done in there that are HR related. Going forward to city clerk, and the city clerk's budget, again, we're budgeting for the wages and salaries. We're putting in funds there for the new director that that is being posted, that position is being posted right now. The commission salaries pretty much stay the same. And going through that, the only other items we increased was travel and training, thinking that the director would be certified and enough dollars to provide training for that director. And legal advertisements, we're projecting an increase there just a little bit. Down the bottom of page 20, the Gulf Beaches Library, that figure was provided by the library. That's our share, and that increased to $92,100. And I guess in the clerk's budget department, it is our feeling and recommendation that the deputy clerk position be reclassified to administrative support specialist. And that's a position that we're trying to fill at this present time. And the idea being there that we would hire this person who may not be certified and ask them with aspirations of being a clerk, to attain training to be certified. And eventually, with the new clerk's guidance and recommendation, and that person could be upgraded to deputy. I don't know what feelings that council has on that, but that was something that we were thinking about.
Just an update for the mayor and the commissioners. We're looking to fill that position sooner than later. Our problem is we're running into a lack of certified clerks to be in the deputy clerk's position. However, here in the very near future, we're going to be not only clerk, but deputy clerkless. So we need to fill that position sooner than later. We have some applications and reviews for tomorrow. The charter says that the deputy clerks are appointed by the city clerk, which we will not have. So rather than having our interim city clerk appoint someone into that position, we want to reclassify that with the intention of whoever goes into that position becoming certified, becoming the deputy city clerk eventually. We have a couple of good applications that we're looking at tomorrow who have city experience as a deputy clerk, so hopefully we'll get that position filled sooner than later. Thank you.
So that's not an added personnel, is what we're saying. We're not gonna,
No, sir, that's a
Go above the
that's a
four.
reclassification.
all right.
And
So you're either gonna have one or the other. You'll either have the administrative aide working to be a deputy clerk, or you'll have the deputy clerk, so it's
Yes,
not
yes,
an
ma'am.
added.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
and is that what the travel and training is for, is to
That's
train
part of
that
it, yes.
person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So did we not establish the parameters for the city clerk already? I thought we already had them certified city clerk. Being done.
We extended the city clerk's position until the second week of next month. So, because we didn't have enough certified applicants apply, we only had 2.
Right.
So, and that was at the commission's direction.
We extended that to next Friday.
Till next Friday, correct?
Next Friday is when we extended that to.
Yeah, 1 week.
Going forward, page 23, the non-departmental budget. We did increase a little bit the computer support from 95,000 to 103,000. The idea being there is, we do have a contract with Networks, a 10-year contract, but there was 4 add-ons to that contract, which we felt needed to bump up that account to the 103,000. The next line item is the website services. And by the way, they are willing to pay or help build our website free of charge. And actually, we can start that at any time. And they will help us rebuild our website. So that's included in the terms of the contract. Other things that increased in there is utilities went up a little bit, electric, and maintenance of buildings went up a little bit. The one item that was discussed yesterday was the water taxi ferry service. That 25,000 is in there as well. Is there any direction from council as to continuing on with that budget item?
You probably have to wait till the meeting, the next regular BOC meeting to find out.
By the way, again, what I'm asking for here is a consensus, and I know you guys, I know you guys can't vote,
Right.
but I guess what I'm asking for, if there is a consensus and you want something added or subtracted, that's the direction I can take, and I'll make the change. So it's up to you.
So you want to do a consensus?
Yeah, I suppose we can do a consensus. I just want to say, I went to the Big C meeting this morning, and I forget her name, Ms. Hubbard was there, and she said she wanted to meet with me. So I said, give me a call, we'll set it up. But in the meantime, before she came up, some gentleman came up to me and said how wonderful the taxi service was. Some of his friends or relatives were in town, and they just loved it. And I said, well, how full was the boat? And he said, oh, I had lots of people on it. But on the other hand, afterwards, they were talking, she and this gentleman were talking, and then they were hugging. So, I don't know how true that story was, but.
Well, I'm definitely for the taxi service. I think we should continue to fund that. I watched a portion of the meeting yesterday, and I thought it was, terrible. We're just abandoning it. And, if we want to be a city that either leads or follows, you guys are not even doing either one. You're just stopping, basically. So.
I don't understand why you
You're
think
gonna
we
lead or
need to
follow.
subsidize it.
I'm sorry?
I don't understand why we should subsidize a business.
Again, Nancy, it pulls in money from outside sources. If it's not the residents, for some reason, you're just against it, and I don't understand that at all, because it definitely pulls in sources. I've had family members come in from town, and we're on the shuttle. Have you ever ridden the shuttle?
No?
Okay, all right, there you go.
But I still don't understand why the city should
Again,
subsidize.
we're not in the business to make money, and I understand we're not in the business to lose money either, but it's a service that we can provide that's on the cutting edge. Tampa's trying to start it. We have Mark is a really good businessman, and he's gonna provide a service that's a good service, and it's $25,000. And again, that's not a ton of money to put into a $1 million project that he's put together. Again.
How much is Treasure Island giving him?
Nancy, ask Treasure Island. I don't talk to Treasure Island. I worry about Madeira Beach.
Well, I asked Ms. Hubbard how many riders they had, if she could provide that information, and she couldn't do that. And every time I've seen
Again, I'm sure that Mr.
I've
Hubbard's-
seen it, it's been practically empty.
Happy to talk with you, Madam Mayor. Happy to talk with you. He's talked with me on several occasions. And again, I've ridden it. I think the taxi service is a wonderful service for not only our residents, which get 50% off, which is a great deal anyway, but for our tourists who come down here and sometimes don't need a car. I had apartments for years. People would come down and say, the beautiful thing about this is I don't need a car. It's money well spent, you guys.
I kind of agree with Nancy that, we shouldn't be subsidizing businesses. I don't,
Surprise. I saw the meeting yesterday. I saw it. Yeah, that's just, you agree with Nancy? Of course you do.
I was the one that brought it up. That I think that, it
Yes,
should
I
go,
saw you put it on the agenda.
and that it should go away because we're subsidizing a business. The taxpayers
I
are
know
paying,
exactly where you stand, John. Exactly where you
the
stand.
taxpayers are
And I will
paying,
continue to fight you on every point. And I will not go through that class. Seriously, you want them to create an environment that's just gonna work for you, and it's not gonna work for you. I've been here 10 years, John. You've been here for 2 months. Seriously, you're killing my city, you guys. You're killing my city. This is not a good thing to do. I mean, I know we're here for the budget workshop, and I missed the meeting yesterday, but I watched it, and I have to apologize to Commissioner Hodges here, because you guys just ganged up on her. It was ugly to watch, and it was brutal, and again, Nancy, I apologize to you. You guys are wrong with what you're doing to the city. You're wrong with where you're leading the city. It's just so many things that are wrong here. I don't understand what you want to do other than stop. That's basically what I'm getting. We just want to stop. We don't want to do anything else. We just want to stop. And I'm not going to stop. I am not going to stop. The city was going in a great direction, and I'm going to keep pushing it in that direction. And you three can just push against me. That's going to happen. And again, I'm not going to pay $1,250 for somebody to come down to the Florida League of Cities that I've already met and seen and talked to. Go to EMO. Go to advanced EMO. Nancy and I went through it, and try it first. Seriously. We're not going to have the same opinions. That's why we were elected. And the recall thing, that's how you get recalled. You don't get elected again. five cycles I've been elected, 5. If they don't like me next March, that's fine too. We will go to a different direction. But as long as I'm here, the people that elected me asked me to go in this direction. The people that I talk to on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis asked me to go in this direction. And I'm not going to change that just because you have somebody come in here and do a.
I'm not asking you to change your mind.
All right.
I've never asked you to do that. I'm just gonna vote my
And I've worked
conscience.
with you on several occasions. We've passed a lot of things unanimously since I've started. The big things we haven't. And the big things are what matter. You're gutting the city. You're absolutely gutting the city. You're taking the heart, yes, that's my residents, and I love my residents, that's the heart of the city. But you're cutting off the fingers, and you're gonna bleed to death. You're gonna bleed to death. You just don't understand how not having a ferry service hurts the city. It hurts the city. It's a great selling point to go out there and say, this is the first ferry service on the Gulf beaches, the very first. Well, who did it? Madeira Beach. When I first moved down here, Johns Pass wasn't even affiliated with Madeira Beach. We just don't have a brand. I've been trying to brand the city for 10 years, trying to get Madeira Beach out there. And that's what we've been trying to do since I started, is just get Madeira Beach out there. And you guys are taking Madeira Beach and just throwing it under a rock and saying, we don't want any change. I apologize, Walter, for interrupting your presentation, but.
That's okay, I needed a break anyway.
And I apologize again to Nancy for not being here yesterday, but you guys did a terrible disservice to Madeira Beach yesterday.
One thing to mention, these line items, we can keep some of these line items in here, and as we go forward, if it's decided that we cancel or don't do something, then this would just go back into fund balance. So it's not like we need to definitely make a change. I just want to make it clear, while I'm looking for direction today, in adjusting this budget as you guys see fit, we don't, I don't necessarily need to change some of these line items. We can keep these in here, and more information on this topic can be gathered in the meantime. I just want to point out one other thing in the non-departmental budget is there's a capital line item in there for $50,000 for continued gateway signage. And I guess at this point, I've covered some of the departments that on my own, and we're into Public Works now, and I think I'll turn it over to Dave so that he can give you a summary of Public Works and how it operates and what he requested.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. We can start out with with Public Works. We haven't made a whole bunch of changes at all to any of the line items you see in there. It pretty much carries on. We haven't had really any major increases or decreases. We saw, you see a $6,000 purchase under tools. That is for a computer for the bigger trucks that we work on. Our mechanic works on all of our garbage trucks, and he also works on all of our fire trucks. This piece of equipment will allow him to work on the fire chief's new ladder truck that he just purchased. We'll be getting that sometime soon. But there are not many other changes. Unless you have any questions, I'll move on to, you're up next, Chief.
I have a question about the street resurfacing.
Excuse me?
The street resurfacing. The
Okay.
capital improvement for $20,000 street resurfacing.
Yes.
Where you at?
Page 28.
$20,000, that's gotta be potholes, that can't be much of anything.
No, it's capital, but it's exactly right, fixing a lot of areas. We'll come forward with a, I think what you're looking for is a number for every street.
No, it says street resurfacing, 20 grand. I was just curious what street you were gonna do.
That's no particular street. That's me coming back in to do a fix that the county didn't do right. That's
Okay.
a pothole,
That's fine.
any of that kind of stuff.
When is Crystal on the schedule?
Crystal Drive is, I think that would be in the capital, and as far as when it is in position, not next year, probably the year after. We have 137th Avenue Circle and a couple other projects that we're doing now because we have Swift Mud money. We could do tack and resurface out there, which we have considered. I just want everybody to be, you know, the road is a bit older, but if you look at our pavement analysis that was done in 2012, Crystal's not that bad. But when you repave Crystal, if you think they drive fast now, I mean, it's something to consider. I mean, we're gonna redo the road, obviously, but
They just wanna know when.
I don't have an answer right this second. as to when.
Is it in that paving project that we posted on the website?
Yes, it is in there, and I can come back with a better answer for that on Friday when we get into the capital.
Okay.
Because that's a capital project.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And what were you saying about the road sign replacements?
You know, that was an item that we've been putting in, taking out, putting in. I think Dave told me to take it out, but I put it back in there.
I did.
And I was still unsure, so that figure is subject to change.
Yeah, just come out. Okay.
And now the chief's budget, fire.
I'm up. I should have had Lieutenant Armstrong come over here for this, but while I'm here, I might as well take the lead on this. The biggest thing in the fire department budget is gonna be our new arrival of that new ladder truck that's coming in. So we actually talked about the fire inspector, fire marshal position in a previous workshop, and we were actually going to put that in front of you sooner than this budget, but we kind of backed off of it a little bit and try to do that all in one process. We also have an additional firefighter's position in here. What I would like to do is research this further and give you guys the actual numbers of what it would do to the longevity of our fire apparatus if we added one firefighter per shift every year for the next 3 years. What this would do would give us a 5-man shift at the fire station and allow us to keep our water rescue unit in service 100% of the time. Currently, in the last 6 months, out of 180 days, it was out of service for 120 days for manpower issues. We do not drop our fire engine response for less than 3 people on the engine company. With 5 people on the engine company, if you had a full shift, then you would have 2 people that would be able to respond out on the water rescue craft. What we would also do, we put one of our fire department SUV vehicles in service as a quick response vehicle, saving mileage, wear and tear on that new ladder truck when they're responding out to medical calls. 80% of our responses right now are medical calls, and if it's not a critical life-threatening type emergency, then that would be able to be handled with a quick response vehicle rather than sending $750,000 ladder truck down the road. So that's the biggest change in the fire department's budget.
Can you tell me about the optimal times to run the ladder truck? I know that the fire truck runs all the time.
All the
just
time.
Just to keep it running, keep it ready, keep it prepared. If the ladder truck sits there for how long before you just want to start it up and roll it out the door?
Your fire department's busy. We run a lot of fire alarm, a lot of fire calls, a lot of motor vehicle accidents.
And you would be using the ladder truck for that?
The ladder truck would still respond to that. Your basic injuries from a fall type call, cuts, illnesses, things like that, we would respond out the quick response vehicle, which would be much more efficient to operate than sending that ladder truck out.
So by adding this extra firefighter, you're saying we're going to save wear and tear on the ladder truck? Is that
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
hearing?
Yes, sir.
And by adding the fire inspector, how are we going to save money?
The fire inspector's not gonna save us money, it's actually gonna generate some money for us. Like we said in one of the previous workshops, there's a fee associated with the life safety inspections that are done. The life safety inspections are supposed to be done annually. Right now, we are way behind in our inspection services, but there is a fee charged with that. We're estimating that to be about $30,000.
Yeah, I think we could at 25 in this budget. Is that right, Walter?
I'm sorry, one more
We put
time?
$25,000 in the budget this year for fire inspections.
Yeah.
We did. And what's the salary on the fire inspector?
What do we set that salary at? We put it at a lieutenant's pay grade, but we want to make it a fire marshal type position. So he will have the authority to do plan reviews and be able to sign off on fire plans as well as do our life safety inspections.
Don't be biased, chief. It could be a woman. It was a woman last time, Irene. Remember her? Okay, all right. So we have a salary for $55,000.
It could be a woman, it could be a man. Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
yes.
correct.
I just said, don't be biased.
Yes, sir.
So we have the salary at what, Walter?
I'm trying to get there.
Okay, all right.
The salary would start at, is it at 4 or 5?
That should be there. It should be at $50,432 would be the salary, because it would be.
There's a range, 50 to 72. Okay, so low end's 50. We pay a pension and insurance on this employee.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a total package?
That is not a fully loaded price, but we can get that for you as well.
Thank you very
Yes,
much. I
sir.
appreciate that. But that being said, just the salary itself was not going to be covered by the $25,000 increase in
No,
in
sir,
fees.
but it will
And
offset it.
Again, we have 2 people in the department now that can do fire inspections. And you being one of them, chief, I'm just saying, you've taken a lot of hats on, and that being said, you've taken a lot of hats on. We're not doing fire inspections because you're sitting in this meeting here. So I'm not really, if you want me to change a line item, or if I can at least bring up a line item to change, that would be the fire inspector.
Okay, that's fine, and, you
Okay.
know, that, I can get you some additional information on that as far as what will cost the residents if we, you know, lose our ISO rating or if that increases. So that's completely up to the commission. You know, the issue with fire inspection, we have a lot of commercial businesses in the city. There's no possible way that the lieutenant that's on duty or myself in either capacity would be able to complete all those inspections. We've tried that.
I think we should try, though.
Well, we have tried that, and we've had, you know, a fire inspector who was on staff before, and we had those.
I know, Irene came down to the church by the sea, I put a fire hood in, remember?
Absolutely.
It cost me $17,000, never been used, still hasn't been used.
Thank goodness, you know,
Just
that's
thank
like
goodness,
insurance. You
absolutely.
never- you
Was there
never-
for 50 years before she came in, too. Yep, wasn't used.
Yes, sir, I
All
understand.
right,
I
okay.
understand. However,
All
you
right.
may need it tomorrow, and that's the important thing about fire prevention.
You never know about tomorrow, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, chief.
Yeah, I
All right.
agree with you 100%.
Thank you very
sir.
much for your input, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Fire chief, I have a line item,
Yes, ma'am.
5210,
5210. Yes, ma'am.
it went up to 31,000. Now, kitchen supplies,
5210.
cleaning supplies, disposable material.
The departmental supplies, is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
5210 is a line item.
Departmental supplies. That also included equipment that was going on to the new ladder truck. The ladder truck gives us a lot more capabilities as far as fire and rescue operations than what is typically found in a typical engine company. And that's the additional equipment that'll be required to be on there to bring it up to Pinellas County standards.
And I think Trish initially had that as a capital item, and I said, hey, let's take that out of capital, because it really isn't a capital item, and that's where I put it, the dollars to cover that.
But you have $50,000 in capital for it.
And as part of the fire department equipment as well. I will tell you this, that we have done our best to keep our costs to a minimal. We did apply for a fire department assistant to firefighter grant and received $42,000 for turnout gear. That was something else that was going to have to apply to this budget. We've got grant money, so it's a matching grant, a 90-10 grant. So I think we're gonna be in good shape there. So that's $40,000 that we did save.
To maintain and keep this ISO rating that we have now, which is fantastic, I think we hired a firefighter so we were fully staffed on all of our calls, because we were one short about 4 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And we got one now, so we're fully staffed on all of it. But the overtime for the line item 1400 is $100,000.
Part of that overtime is required by state law. firefighters typically work at
How
24.
much of a part is required by state law?
We'd have to pull that out as far as what premium overtime is. You know, state law requires any firefighter that works over 52 hours a week to be paid time and a half. The firefighters are currently on a 56-hour work.
Again, I thought that was the reason that we upped the staff 4 years ago to get a fully staffed squad every time, which was four people.
I think we did that as a replacement when we had firefighters leave the department.
Okay,
We've always had staffing at 4 as long as I've been in here.
Just give me a breakdown of that $100,000, please. That's
Yes,
all.
sir, I will.
Thank you.
Can I go back to Crystal for a second? Sorry. Crystal Drive. It's in 2019.
2019?
Sorry.
Don't be skipping around, Dave.
I'm sorry. I found it. Sorry.
Next up is the law enforcement, the budget for that I received from the Sheriff's Department. Contract includes an increase of, actually it was a higher increase. It's $1,238,869, and I'm on page 34. One of the things that actually brought that down to an increase of only just 2.49% is that there was some shift changes. Shift changes where some of those shift changes made has actually saved money. So this actually is not that bad of an increase at all. And this includes, when I got these numbers, I got numbers that included with code enforcement, the code enforcement officers, and without. And it proved to be beneficial to have the two additional officers as opposed to having our own staff from a cost standpoint. I think the difference was $211,000, and having those two additional people, where if we had our own staff with benefits, it would probably maybe even be the same. But the benefit of having those two officers who in code enforcement can issue tickets and can be more of a proactive than if we hired our own staff and who wouldn't have the authority to issue tickets.
Maybe I misunderstood the percentage. Did you say it was an increase of 2.4% over last year?
It turns out to be that, but it actually is a little bit of, that is built into that as a savings because of the shift changes that they enacted that actually saved us money. If it wasn't for that shift, that percentage increase probably would have been close to 4 or 5%.
It was a $10,000 increase. That's what I'm looking at from last year to this year. That's not 2.4%.
The bottom line is, with the shift changes, it saved about $20,000.
I'm just asking that there's not a 2.4% increase here that I see.
Part of the shift changes actually occurred this year. So some of the savings that if you look at the actual FY 2016, that actual is $1,284,840.
Right, it actually went down in 17.
Right.
I see that.
Right. So again, one of the reasons why it went down was because of the shift changes that they did make. I'll relook at that percentage if that's what's bothering you.
Well, okay, yeah, thank you.
Well, you're saying the contract calls for a 2.49%, right?
Right.
Okay.
I believe that's the figure that was on the information that was sent to me. I'll look at that again. With that, I will turn it back to Dave for Parks.
Okay, Parks, the biggest change in the Parks Department is the
contractual service.
Contractual services number, which went down to 85,000, that's due to Doug's staff taking over the city center maintenance. And then everything else there is pretty much about the same.
Yeah, the idea being there is that the rec staff is doing the lawn service here.
Correct.
and
So we had a reduction. That's been going on for the past year, actually.
But I know my parks are gonna come back into operation next year, so there shouldn't be an increase to have to take care of my
No,
pocket
sir,
parks,
those
right?
are included.
They should get their savings this year where they're not doing them?
Yes, yeah, I mean, no.
No.
What did you say that again?
I said my pocket parks are gonna come back into operation this coming
Yes.
year.
Yes, sir, they are.
Shortly.
Yes.
We're close. August was my deadline, but we'll shoot for
I'm a little
December.
past that.
We'll shoot for December. But that's good, Dave. But my pocket parks will come back in, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Mine being District Number 1, I got a lot of pocket parks down there. A lot of them are gonna come back into operation, and they're gonna have to be mowed and maintained. Obviously, they haven't been mowed and maintained because they haven't been accessed or needed to be accessed. So I'm only saying that this figure includes all
Yes,
the
sir.
parks in Madeira Beach.
Yes, sir.
I don't want you to forget me, because I was
No.
forgotten last year. I
Absolutely
want to make
not.
sure that I'm in the budget
No.
to take care of my
Got it.
pocket parks
And the tree.
and the tree. Yeah, and there you go. Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're now on to recreation, and I'll ask Doug to, Doug had quite a few items in the operating that went up and down.
Also, his responsibility got a lot bigger, too.
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you, guys. Good afternoon. What we've tried to do, there are some changes, but it's a little give and take if you look through the budget. Most of the increases, and I'll go down with them one by one if you'd like, are due to increase in activities. The decreases are due to, well, I'll take it down the whole thing. The umpires and the officials, that is, if you look back a little further in our history, back around 2010, I think that number was about $34,000. So when you see the $8,000 number there in 2015, that's when we didn't have any fields out there when we were under construction. So it's gradually grown back up to that number. So, hopefully we'll be able to get it done for 30. That's obviously what we're budgeting for. Cruising down, scorekeepers, we don't need as much time from those guys because now we have scoreboards. Our instructor, this is just based on historical data. We started that program up in 2015, 2016 timeframe, and honestly, we just took guesses at it in the beginning as we've grown it. That number is pretty accurate. I'm hoping to have to pay more, to be honest with you, if we can grow the programs a little quicker, as far as Zumba and yoga and things along the lines of that. Travel and training, that uptick is because I have a young staff and they have a thirst for knowledge and they're taking advantage of the classes that they're allowed to take and that help them perform their job better. So they're taking college credit courses that are related to what we're doing. Scrolling down, the ball field lights, that was returned back to $34,000 because we didn't get the appropriations. So that's pretty much straight on. We're at about 75% usage of that currently, so that's a pretty solid number. The next one is maintenance in buildings. The only reason for the increase there is we put $8,000 aside to do some painting of the rooms that we're hosting all of these weddings and events and things along the line there. That includes the city center room that we use for activities and events as well. Grounds and parks, that is related to us taking over the city center. That is really just general equipment needs, being fertilizer, grass seed, Roundup, things along the lines of that. So that's what that number is for. If I'm going too quick, I can slow down. Everybody good? Okay. Print and reproduction, this is just based on historical data right now. That's about where we are going forward. Promotions in public relations, don't need that much money. We are not doing the ESPN beat. We're not going to pay for the ESPN Beach Bash this year. If we do it, it'll be a wash and there won't be any money spent on it. Looking down further, office supplies, decrease. I'm sorry, go ahead.
On the promotions and public relations, what is
Yes,
the 30,000 used for?
when we do a co-sponsored event, for example, that's one of the things for when we did the carnival. We paid for the entertainment. We paid $10,000 for that, and we get 50% of the net revenues from it. So that's when you saw the check a meeting ago for $25,000. So our $10,000 turned into $25,000. For co-sponsored event like Beer Fest, we did. I paid $2,500 in entertainment fees there. We are getting back 65 for a first-time event. Pretty good. We netted out about $4,300 on something like that. That 4-hour charity event, which actually worked out great for us. Other things, when somebody sponsors us and we buy them a banner for the ball field, we take that money out of there. General things like that. But we've decreased it significantly, obviously.
Why did the Little League double?
Little League doubled because it tripled in size or quadrupled in size.
And we are funding this, why?
We're not funding it. They're paying us. Look at the revenue lines.
I saw it was 32,
And what are we paying?
30,000.
That's positive. We're not in business to make money, correct, Commissioner Lister?
That's what I keep telling everybody.
Okay. But this is, I mean, we're not going to start picking on Little League, are we?
Looks like it.
That's if look back to 2015 and look at the Little League number. It was 0, and we got 0 in revenue. So we'll probably get, if I'm going to be really fair with you guys, my revenue number is probably low. We're already at $36,000 for this year. We weren't expecting the growth that we had, and they still got a fall season left. So, but I'm still stuck to that budget number where I'm at. Okay. Looking down, only other changes, departmental supplies, that's actually the same as last year, so no change there. And summer program, I've got 134 kids signed up. I'm sorry, 135 as of today signed up. We don't have that many at any particular time, but we've had as many as 95 during the course of a day. So that is an added increase in field trips and things along the lines of that. But I've got about $80,000 worth of kids down there if we want to equate it like that for this year. And the only other thing on it is a capital equipment line. And Walt, I believe that's the truck, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a truck that's in the replacement program, number 20, that is going to be replaced next year.
You know, and I just want to say that you see where Doug has taken and increased some of these accounts, decreased some, like the promotions, but increased some accounts to take, like the summer program, to take, if you have more kids and more events, and you're going to generate more revenue, there's an expense to that. So we paid a lot of attention toward these expense line items, anticipating the growth in additional leagues. I think on one particular, in youth leagues or baseball league, there's what, 3 or 4 additional teams or?
There's 18 teams. One of them is in the state championships this weekend, by the way.
But as we were going through these expenditure line items, we also, that's how we developed the revenue too. So when I went over the revenue with you, and I indicated that that's going up by 21%, that's a good thing, and we matched the revenue line items with the expense line items as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
I see the total expenses, but what is the total revenue that we're bringing in?
328.
But that's not counting
Well,
permits.
that's what we're
fees.
budgeted for,
I see that,
$328,000.
but that's not including permits and stuff like that.
Okay, page 5, which I've gone over this, page 5, in the middle of the page, it says culture and
Right.
recreation.
I see that, 328,000.
Right.
But that's not including permits and stuff like that, correct? Which would,
No, that's including permits, yes.
that's including all the permits.
That's
Yeah,
including
that's
everything,
including-
yes.
That's everything in Doug's area.
Big difference.
Big difference, you know. Terry might say we're not in business to make money, but we're losing $600,000 on this department.
We're not losing $600,000.
Okay, how much are we
John,
losing?
be serious.
$500,000. $895 for expenses,
That's a terrible thing to say.
$328.
Look at 2015 for the
But we're
actual-
not in
what we were putting
2015. Oh, Terry.
Look at 2016.
We're
It
not in
almost doubled.
2016.
You know, we've hit the high water mark here. You're not gonna be able to do too much more. We did a lot of budget amendments.
We'll get to about $500,000 when my 5-year plan is
We're
done.
getting-
Yeah,
we're
we're
getting
getting,
really
and
close to
honestly,
be
if you look,
saturated.
2016, we did 249. This year, we're actually going to beat that probably significantly. We're pretty close. 328, we're just throwing budget numbers out. We don't want to get caught behind the 8 ball and say 450, so. But you can look, yeah, I mean, look, you can look at the number and say that. We're doing a lot of other things other than just recreation. We are taking care of the fields. There's a lot of money that's poured into stuff like that. I didn't build this facility.
Understand that.
Okay, I'm working with what I got, and this is just traditional numbers that are coming across, so that's where we're at, guys.
Again, that being said, Doug, I think we're getting closer to our saturation point because I have had some feedback from some of the softball leagues, that being the $30,000 for the umpires. I know that the umpires are paid through that fee. They're, $450 for a 10-game season?
Yep.
You know, sometimes they get bumped because there is a lot of events done on the
Sure.
field. And, you know, weather obviously has a lot to do with it, but there has to be a saturation point that we're gonna get to before long. So we won't be making all of these budget amendments for the recreation department. But the recreation department, since we built it, has done phenomenal things for the children of Madeira Beach, for the East Michigan has brought down 15 teams from across the
36
country.
now, 36 this year.
Across the country, and they're coming to Madeira Beach. It's a big deal, you guys, because those families that come down here, they stay over at the Courtyard, they stay down at, in Barefoot Beach Resort, they stay at the Madeira Bay, they stay throughout the city, and they bring money to the city. You know, if you look at a line item that's in a recreational, show me a park that makes money. Show me a park that makes money. It's a park. It's not supposed to make money, and again, John, I'll repeat myself, we're not in the business to make money. We're in the
You're right,
business
but we're not in the business to lose money either.
We're not losing money. Again, you're not taking into account what these people spend. They're here for 3 weeks. They're doing a tournament. They're spending, I don't know, what is it, $200 a night at the Courtyard at least? And it's full. It's absolutely packed. And I know that's not the city, but it's money that's coming in to the city, and that's getting spent by the owners of the Marriott. And you know, it's not trickle-down economics. I'm not going to quote Ronald Reagan here, but I'm telling you, it's good for the city. It is great for the city, the things that are happening in our rec department. And Doug, I give you kudos
You know,
for
Terry,
what you're
but,
doing, buddy.
you know, you talk about these numbers.
I'm not talking about the numbers. You are. I'm talking about the overall health of my city.
You're right, but
you're cutting the fingers off of it by getting down into micromanaging this man's budget. He's tripled his budget since he started to work. He has made a lot of money for the city of Madeira Beach. Yes, we've spent some money. Yes, we've spent some money. But I guarantee you the goodwill that's come from this will never be able to be repaid.
You know, 3 years ago, or maybe it was 4, the ad valorem for the property taxes was $1.79.
It was, John.
And now we're up to
20 years ago, it was 2.2.
And we're now
20 years ago.
And we're
Let's
back
talk
up,
about history. I've got it.
and we're back up to 2.2.
2.2, absolutely, because we're giving a city with a lot better services. You still have backdoor trash. Seriously? Who else has that? Nobody. Nobody has backdoor trash. They come to the back of my house and pick my garbage up. I don't even take it to the curb. Half the people that live here don't even know that. They still put their garbage out on the curb because they're just like you and you because you haven't been here long enough. Seriously? Don't tell me about 5 years ago. 25 years ago, it was 2.2. 25. Let's talk history, John.
I don't want to live in the past.
Then don't live in the past. Live in the future, and you're killing the future of Madeira Beach.
No, we're not.
You are killing it. Again, you already killed it once, Miss Oakley, but hey, it's coming back around. It's like deja vu. It's like a bad penny. I just can't simply get rid of it.
Any more questions?
Not from me, Doug. You're doing a heck of a job, buddy.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
I would like to say, maybe, Terry, the reason John thinks the 5 of us should get together and try to not agree, but to be able to work together.
I was working here 25 years ago as an umpire, making $25 for 3 games. I know exactly what those umpires go through. And I saw you guys just jump all over $30,000 for umpires yesterday at this meeting. It was terrible what you've done. Have you ever even seen what an umpire does? He goes out and he mediates everything that goes on in that field.
Why don't we
He
give him
gets
$100
spit
an
on,
hour?
he gets cussed at, and you guys are out here going, oh, what are you doing to $30,000? It's being paid for by the teams that come in. Know what you're talking about or don't talk. Sorry, Doug.
That's okay.
Thank
We
you,
have,
Terry.
we have
Helped me
Jaws
make up my
Friday night,
mind.
guys. If you guys want to come down and watch a really cool event, we're doing it on the beach at Archibald, so.
John, your mind was made up before you got elected. They made your mind up for you.
Next is parking enforcement, and the couple of things there, the contractual ticket processing line item increased a little bit. That's just based on the number of processing tickets. Chris, did you want to talk a little bit about this?
Testing. Good afternoon. Currently, the city has about 28 parking pay stations that are, for lack of a better term, very antiquated. They definitely cost me a lot of time and energy to help them basically function the way they're supposed to be functioning. So we were considering purchasing new up-to-date pay stations, basically so it frees up my schedule and so I don't basically allocate all of my time toward fixing them, and so it could open up my time to write more parking violations and continue with the office work that is also required of me.
Could I just say one thing, Chris?
Sure.
Nick and I originally did the RFP for the parking meters and, or for the pay stations. That was huge, going from the parking meters to the pay stations. We didn't, Calais, the company that we deal with, is outstanding. Their headquarters is right here in Clearwater, but we didn't get the best machines that they had on the market when we did that RFP. So with that being said, everything you're hearing from Chris, the updates, I'm in the field every single day. I'm not a desktop public works director. You'll see me out and about. So that's one of the major complaints that we get in the field is what the heck is going on with these parking machines. If you walk by somebody's car and you see my business card on their dashboard, it's most likely because I gave it to them because the parking meter was down. So anything we can do to help these guys to improve their equipment, and also it just is, it gives the visitor that's coming to the beach a much better experience when they don't have to fight the parking meter. Sorry, Chris, just have to jump.
Chris, what would you say, we talked about this morning, again, what would you say, how many machines that definitely need to be replaced right away?
I would say there was about 10 that would be a necessity. The older ones that we have on the smaller beach avenues, they typically have about 5 to 7 parking spaces. Those I can keep alive and functioning without having to spend any extra capital at this time. But the main ones, it's kind of hard to refer to. You probably don't know them by their names. Like, for instance, Village 4 is the busiest meter that we have. And typically when that one goes down, it causes a lot of frustration with people because it just backs up lines at the other pay stations, and it's just such a high traffic area. If even one of them goes down, it creates a lot of chaos, a lot of frustration, a lot of mad visitors. So I would like, ideally and conservatively, to replace about 3 just in that location where Village it's where the Chamber of Commerce building is. It's the meter that's closest to that building. That's Village 4. So that one I would like to be replaced. The one directly across the street, which is called Village 3, and the one to the left by the public restrooms is JP2. All three of those are very busy, and because it's it's a very high traffic area. So those would be on my list, and also the three at Johns Park that are called South 1, 2, and 3. Those are also very, very busy, and we lost communication with South 1 about a year ago because the modem finally went. They no longer make the modem. I can't even order a new one. And basically what that means is we basically get constant updates and reports through our software system that tells us how much money is in the machines, if it's getting low on paper, if it's a malfunction. I lost all that communication because of the modem. And it's only a matter of time before this happens to basically all of them, because we can't even order the parts anymore. So if we were to just leave everything, as is and not upgrade, there could be a possibility in the near future that I lose all communication with them. I won't know how much money is in there. I won't know if they're having problems. I'd have to go out and physically examine each and every single meter in the city. And that also poses a problem because we need to have some sort of a check and balance where the people in the finance department know exactly how much money is in there and know how much was collected from myself, just so something can be reconciled. With the current situation with South 1, I can collect it and I could get it printed off to how much money was collected out of it, but there's no software reconciliation for those guys. There could be money missing that they don't know about, and I don't like that. That puts me in a weird spot. That puts my employees in a weird spot. So that's kind of how I look at it, where I'm coming from, what I'm dealing with, and Walt definitely feels the same way, and to help give our visitors a better experience with the parking situation.
So Chris, the estimate that you gave me today, the latest that you got from Calais, to replace 5 would be a cost of basically $30,000.
Yeah, I think it came in just under, from memory, which is actually lower than I was anticipating. We actually have one new pay station located at Archibald that we call Arch 1, and I think, going off memory, I think it was $7,290. So it appears that this recent estimate from Calais per unit cost is actually a little bit cheaper, so which kind of surprised me. I was expecting a higher number.
So if we have 40,000 presently in the budget, how much more beyond the 40 would it take to at least solve the short-term problem that you have?
Honestly, not much. If
You're looking at another 20, so if 5 is 30,000 and we want to do 10, we're probably looking at another 20,000, bring it up to 60?
yes, but if, I mean, in the short term, I could actually get away with just 5 or 6 by just replacing the main ones. That would be JP2, Village 4, South 1, Village 3, and possibly South 3. I could even get away with that, and it would greatly improve the situation for everyone. Like I said before, I can keep what we have working. It's just very challenging when I have to do that for 28 of them. If I could just have the main high traffic areas upgraded, that would definitely help everybody out.
Thank you.
I've got one question. And Walt, you might be able to answer it. The $87,800 for banks and fees, is that like credit card fees? What is that?
The 87,000 is the pay station.
It says bank service fees.
Yeah, it's our credit card fees for for the credit card charges.
And that was renegotiated by Vince and lowered considerably 2 years ago.
Yes.
I know when we originally started talking about the pay stations, Nancy was thinking that we could do phone. Now, the new stations that we're thinking about getting, do they have that capability that you can pay by your phone?
They do. We would, basically how that would work is when we purchase a new meter, we basically sit down with a sales representative and we go over certain aspects of it. Basically, they all come with that capability. We would just have to pay extra in order to activate it.
Okay.
And we'd have to have a whole new system.
Thank you, Chris. And the machines that we have now, the 5 that we're going to cannibalize, we're going to leave those in storage and use those for parts, right?
No, they actually have something new. It's actually called a buyback program. And what they were going to do, because first of all, we're going to be purchasing refurbished machines.
Right.
Just because there's no extra benefit in buying a new one except for spending more money.
Go ahead.
Because they come with the same,
Guarantee.
smart warranty program. So we'd be paying extra money for no reason.
Not to interrupt, but didn't we have a maintenance contract on the ones that we bought, what was it, about 8 years ago? Did we have a maintenance contract when we first bought these? It was for at least 2 years, maybe 3? Anybody remember?
I believe it was 2 years.
Okay, so
And
once
then-
we bought them, they've maintained them for 2 years. Once we buy these refurbished, is there gonna be any maintenance contract available for the refurbished?
Yes, it's called a Part Smart warranty, and it's honestly been a saving grace to have. Even though the parts themselves will be covered, not a single dime will be spent from the city regarding the parts. But where the cost comes in is every time that I have to call a service tech out. Just for him to come out is $140, and then it'll go up from there depending on how long he's here.
You're our service tech, right?
I'm sorry, say one more time?
You're our service tech, you go out and repair the machines, or do we have anybody on staff that does it?
He
Actually,
repairs them. He doesn't.
I'm sorry?
Yes, he
Say
does.
yes.
yeah,
Say yes.
I actually do that. Working with Nick back when he was the parking supervisor, he actually taught me how to repair a lot of the components in the machines, like the
Simple fixes, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, cyber security is huge, and, they're directly into our bank account. I mean, that's where the money goes when they slide their card. How's the cybersecurity on these new ones as opposed to the old ones? Are we keeping up with cybersecurity?
I guess that would be a question for
The IT?
LA America, the company that we're purchasing them from. But as of now, they have the same credit card slots and components as the older ones that we currently have.
And if I remember correctly, when I was watching the meeting yesterday, the IT contract is for 10 years, and we're in the 3rd year? Anybody got that information?
Yes.
I believe that's correct.
That is correct.
10 years. Okay.
One thing you mentioned, Chris, that 30,000, that quote you gave me, that included trade-in credit?
I believe they did include that, yeah.
All right, so that's 3750. So that's the trade-in of the equipment's being replaced, right?
Yes, I believe they gave us around 700 and something. It was just under 800 back. I think that was a per unit.
It's 750 times 5 here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
So do we have a number on how much we make in parking? 1.4, 1.7, what is it, 1.9 million dollars?
I repeated it,
You did, and it's,
1,748,500.
exactly, it's $1,750,000.
Yeah.
We're not keeping up with our machines? Come on, this is a no-brainer. Why aren't we just buying 5? I mean, I see people down there all the time, guys. I go to John's Pass. I see people down there frustrated. I stop them from back parking. I actually get out of my vehicle and say, you're gonna get a ticket if you keep that vehicle turned around, and they'll turn around.
Those are the
And-
ones we're getting.
And they go up to the parking stations and they're frustrated.
Those are the ones that we're
I
getting.
sit there on a bench 2, sometimes 3 hours, and I watch these people. It's ugly to watch. They don't want to do this. If we have a system that's better than what we have, we should definitely do this.
We do have a meeting set up with the CalA representatives.
When?
And
Are they coming before us, or are they coming before you?
they're going to talk to us.
Okay.
And we're going to address some of these issues that you brought up and see if they can actually help us more with some of the issues that we have.
All right, so at this meeting, you said we were gonna have 800,000 or 86,000. You know, let's put that towards the extra meters here. You know, put $150,000 towards new meters.
We can definitely do that. We had a meeting with Chris and talked about what he needed to replace and what he thought would be the most effective and efficient way to do that. So we're taking the old meters, the ones that are still serviceable, that maybe aren't up to the task of the high volume areas, but rotating those into the lower impact areas, so we can still get the serviceable life out of that. And
So you're putting more meters into the lower serviceable areas, or you're replacing the ones that are bad?
we're replacing the high volume areas, the
Right,
ones that are being
the
worn
5
out.
machines.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
with you on that.
And the ones that we still have some serviceable life in, we're leaving those in there, and we'll phase those out through the budget process.
How many do we have in Johns Pass?
We have 9, not including,
I'm not talking about the new machines. How many old machines do we have in Johns Pass right now?
11.
11, exactly. So let's replace 11. I mean, yeah, let's make it consistent across the board. We're confusing people here.
Right, and if
We're
they work
obviously
differently,
confused.
It's going to be very confusing for whoever's
Well,
going to use
again,
this
it's
as a
going,
pay station.
if you could pay by phone, it would be pretty easy. My grandson is 2. He's just over 2. He can work a phone. If we can't do it, we give it to our grandkids and they can park us. Okay? Let's get back into the 21st century here. Why are we nickel and diming this? It's $1.75 million and it's gonna go away. Mark my word, it's gonna go away. Uber's gonna come in here and they're gonna drop people off and they're not gonna have a need to park. It's not gonna happen. I'd say 20 years, you're gonna be in trouble. Because if you start getting weaned in on this $1.75 million, we as a city are gonna be in trouble. Because it's gonna be no parking. They're gonna drive in and drive out. But that being said, the 10 or 15 years we got left, let's buy a machine that's gonna last 10 or 15 years. These have only lasted, what, 6, 8? And a modem is gone. The modem you can't even get. We've done some really good research here, right? And we know that the machines that we're about to purchase are gonna be on the market and available for the next 15 years. Can we buy a maintenance? You know, like when I put a roof on, you know, or a termite tent, they buy a contract. And by the time that contract's out, they'll redo it for free. You know, we need to renegotiate these maintenance contracts that we're putting together and make sure that they're well taken care of machines. We don't want Nick and Nick's leaving, I'm sorry to say, but we don't want Chris to go out there and you know, try to fix these things. It's a moneymaker, John. It's a moneymaker. It does make money.
When I sat down with them beforehand, I told Chris, I said, let's go buy them. Did I not say that to you?
Yes, sir, you did.
I know you'd say that. You're a smart man. I'm not saying you're not smart.
But, you know, what you're saying, 10 to 15 years, it's like anything else. It's like a computer. You buy a computer today, it's outdated in 3 years. These are going to be the same way. You know, I agree, we need to spend the money to make the money. But, you know, if you're thinking they're going to last 10 to 15 years, I don't know what world you're living in, because no electronics last that long anymore. Maybe 3 to 5, and you have a good product.
Let's make sure we have a 3 to 5 maintenance contract on it. No more 2 years, no more 3 years. Get a maintenance contract through it for the life of the machine. That's all I'm saying.
We will follow up after we.
And don't step over $1 to save a dime. If they're refurbished machines that are gonna last 3 to 5 years and a brand new machine will give me a 10-year guarantee, I put a new roof on, it's called TPO, it's a 20-year guarantee. I walked away from it. For 20 years, they're gonna be responsible for that roof. 20 years, folks, that is a fantastic deal. It's a product that just came out. So if there's a product that comes out that's gonna cost us $1,000 more, but we're gonna get out of that maintenance for 10 years, step into it. Just do the research and give me the numbers that you get back. I'm fine with spending $60,000. I'm fine with spending $160,000. But I just need to know the machines that we're gonna buy are not gonna need Chris or Nick or anybody else to go out there and fix them.
One of the reasons we had Chris working on the machines is for a time saving, because to call them, have them drive out here to the beach, the unit would be out of service for 2, 3, 5 days. with Chris here on staff and being willing to go in there and change out that board or whatever needs to be done with that system, we can get it back in service basically as soon as we knew that it was out of service. So, you know, and we'll definitely get that information from Calais and get that stuff back to the commission.
And I agree with you, Chief. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to use the machine that you just walked up to and the other machine is 20 yards or 30 yards down the road.
Agreed.
I'm with you. We want to get them fixed as soon as possible. And if we have the expertise on site, that's fine too.
And the other key thing is, we're going ahead and posting that, or filling that position that's been vacant. This has been a two-person shop.
Yeah.
And if one of them goes down, and he was sick for a week and a half, and everything came to a halt.
There you go. There's been a lot of responsibility out here then in City Hall that people are not doing anymore. But increasing the fines, Walter, I'm not a big fan of that. I get emails all the time and parking tickets given to me and saying, you know, I was here for this amount of time and I got a ticket. And so that's bad will for the city. I'm not saying that people should get away with illegal parking. Absolutely not. But to increase the people that are out there writing tickets is probably not the best for the city. Not saying that shouldn't be done. I just don't see why we need to pay somebody to do it. Extra. Sorry.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, next, John's Pass Village. Dave?
Madam Mayor, can we take a 5-minute break before we start with John's Pass?
Okay. 5-minute break.
Pretty much keeping things the same. I mean, you know, if it's, I know you're paying a lot, but, you know, that's why I'm keeping that administrative charge back. I'm keeping that the same. I'm not increasing that. So if I increase that another 5 or 10,000, that would have hurt you and some of those other funds. I'm not doing that. So I'm trying to, you know, not do that, you know?
But you'll mention your, the full-time employee.
Yeah. I've already mentioned that half of that person, half of that new director is coming out of community services.
What's that?
We're reconvened at 3:56, and we're on to John's Pass Village? Oh, yes.
One thing at the start, we'd like to move the proprietary funds, sanitation, stormwater, marina funds to Friday, if that's okay with everybody. We'd like to move item number 6, the priority funds, sanitation, stormwater, and the marina to Friday, if that's okay with the council.
Basically, the enterprise fund.
Right. Okay. We'll still try to do Archibald and building, if that's okay.
That's
You know,
fine with me.
You know, I'd like to mention one more thing, and I wanted to say this from the start. Because I came in a little late and a little behind in the budget process, I really have been following the same format that this budget's been in, that Vince, great job, has done in the past. I just want to let you know, the next time I do the budget, I want to include goals and objectives for each department and actually accomplishments that those departments have exhibited. I did that kind of budget in Hillsborough, and that's the budget, that's what I really believe is a budget which includes what the goals are for the departments, what we want those departments to strive for, but also list the accomplishments and what they have accomplished, even in monetary value. And that's the way budgets and governments are going. And if you want to see a good one, go into Hillsborough County. Theirs is great. And they go out of their way to list some of their, they've even gone to some performance rewards in some of their, the achievements that some of their departments have exhibited. So they strive on and give rewards for departments that are going over and above. And one of the ones at Hillsborough that exceeded is the fire department. So that's the direction I'd like to go. And I just wanted to mention that because, you know, I wanted to follow this format and not really deviate too much because of the limited time that we have. So with that said, John's Pass Village is next.
And the only changes in the Johns Pass Village Fund are for departmental supplies and electrical, and that's due to the lighting project that we just did down in Johns Pass for all the trees. I have no way to guesstimate what that's going to be. We also replaced all the bollards on the boardwalk, and that includes a new light pole across from Walt's Fish Shack at the end of the boardwalk. So that's why there's an increased cost right there, and with the departmental supplies increase, we're incrementally replacing ashtrays, receptacles. We found a powder coat business that has been sandblasting and powder coating our stuff now for us for about $100, which is a huge savings. But that's why those increases are in there. Any questions?
The powder coating, is it just basic black or?
Basic. Actually, we have basic black, and then we're getting ready to do one that's at the marina that's kind of like a black with a bronze in it that really, really looks good. So I'll send some pictures of that out.
Yeah, other colors, are they available?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay, but not at the $100 cost. Could you give me?
No, I think it's the same price.
Okay, fantastic. Then I'd like to bring it up at our next Johns Pass Merchants Association meeting. That being said, I get a lot of merchants down there that says the trash cans leak.
That's why that number is on there.
They pick it up and it leaks. I mean, we pick it up, obviously.
We pick them up.
Yeah, and do a fantastic job.
Ours all have bags in them.
Right.
So ours aren't the ones that you're seeing leak.
Okay. Are there
without
store owners that put their own containers out?
There's store owners that take their trash so that their can leaks to get to the dumpster. they'll take it, and then
Actually, I'm talking in front of these shops. I'm sorry.
in front of the shops?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't believe any of ours leak.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't think.
If we could
I
just,
hope not. We put bags
I've
in
been
all
told
of them, and then they have ashtray covers on the top.
okay,
So, and they're not pretty. I mean, we just got finished having the boys all pressure wash them. So I think with the powder coating, we're getting some reuse out of them, we're saving some money there, but we need to redo all that stuff down there.
how long has it been since we've replaced them? Do you know?
I've been the Public Works Director since 2010, and I don't remember
Right.
ever doing that, sir.
Right, I don't think they've ever been replaced either. And again, it's.
They're good, I mean, it's not.
Right. But could you give me some options on, I went to.
Absolutely.
I went to Europe, and I was in Dublin, and there were these trash containers with solar powered. There were solar powered trash containers, and they compacted them. I'm just saying, there's a ton of options out there. And it looks good for our city to be on the cutting edge. I mean, as opposed to, 6 o'clock in the morning, a big truck coming through and picking everything up and getting out of there, being gone by sunrise.
Yeah, and
Just give me some options.
Absolutely, I will. And there's no doubt that, and we'll get into that tomorrow, sanitation, but there is much more trash
Oh,
than
tons.
there ever was.
Tons.
So,
Yeah.
you
And
want to know how busy
Debbie
the city
Winston's
is?
not in the audience
I
right
can
now, but
tell you.
she walks through John's Pass all the time, and
Every day.
she's picking up some stuff. I was in Disney, and there's people picking up trash all the time. That's all they do, pick up
We
trash.
can have somebody start on one end of town, pick
Right.
up for 8 hours, and then
I know.
Start over.
It's like painting a bridge, the Golden Gate, they never stop. They paint it from one side to the other, never stop. But that being said, I'd like to get better trash cans down there, and I'd like to get maybe sign-specific benches. If we could put Madeira Beach on them, or John's Pass on them.
Yes, sir.
I'd prefer Madeira Beach, because I think
Okay.
Madeira Beach is one from north to south. So if we could just get me a price on putting some specific benches down there too, I'd appreciate it.
we went through that process. We actually bought some for a couple of parks, so I've already got a couple of ideas in mind.
Thank you, David, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. And that request for benches and trash cans has also came from the Johns Pass
Merchants.
Merchants Association, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm gonna call it the Civic Association.
Yes.
So I'll get that in there.
Can I ask just one quick question about the boardwalk, the maintenance and the upkeep?
Yes,
The
sir.
Brazilian hardwood, is that what do we call it, the
E-Pay,
yeah,
Yes,
it's holding
sir.
up really well.
outstanding. We're having, other issues, but the E-Pay is holding up very good.
It is.
Yes.
I just want to say kudos on whoever made that decision, because I think that was in my tenure, but I'm not sure if I put the 850,000, was it?
That was,
it cost
yes,
us to
sir,
put it in?
that was Spieler Senior
Yeah.
that made that recommendation.
It was good money spent. It was a ton of money, but it was good money spent.
Right.
And that being said, we haven't had a lot of maintenance on that. And I
No.
know we flipped the other boards over sometimes twice a year. It was, and
It was a
we had a lot of
continence
stickers
maintenance.
and splinters, so
Yep.
this eBay is really, really a good wood. That being said, I just want to say that the importance of buying good stuff up front is important.
And we also, with that project, used all stainless instead of, we spent the extra money, went the extra mile, and it's,
Exactly, and again, when Commissioner Oakley and I were trying to stop the cut-throughs on, the boardwalk, that was a big deal, and we've got that under control. The boardwalk's looking really well. John's Pass in general is looking very well. We just need a few upgrades and updates on some stuff. If we could put, I don't know, I don't want to give you a number, Walter, but if I could find a number.
I'll have something by Friday.
Yeah, that we could talk about.
Okay.
You ask for things and see if you get them.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thanks.
As far as the Johns Pass budget goes, that is the only thing. I have one more project that you'll see happening down there, and that is in this year's budget, and that's the seawall across from Walt's Fish Shack that goes from the residence over to Don Stock. That wall needs to be replaced, so.
Didn't they put a catch basin there one year? On the
That's
inside?
where the catch basin is, yes. I have a
Yeah.
CDS unit there, so it's a little bit of a challenge.
Did we
but
do that, or did Swift Mud come in and do that for us?
We did that with Swift Mud Cooperating Funds.
So we can't throw any liability back on top of them for
No.
weakening that seawall, can we?
I wish.
Just
Nah,
kidding.
that one's
Just
ours.
kidding. All right.
That's that's all I had. If I have any other questions,
Yeah, so
requests.
what's the $290,000 for the city center dock construction? under
Is that in
capital?
Johns Pass Village? There should be 290,000 in capital in Johns, where do you see that at?
Local option sales tax.
Oh, yeah, we'll cover that
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah, let me expand on it now because it's in Johns Pass. That's for the transient dock that I've applied for a grant for the past couple of years. We've been in permitting now for, I think, 18 or 19 months. The transient dock at Johns Pass is probably one of the project that I've been trying to get done for almost probably 7 or 8 years, since I think we started this project when Commissioner Oakley first came on board. That project includes 2 docks, one handicapped accessible floating dock across from Waltz where we're have the money appropriated for the new seawall. And then we also are gonna come off of the boardwalk with it's 141 feet, and it'll be a floating dock that will be available for the public to pull up to access Johns Pass. Johns Pass is the west coast of Florida's largest free waterfront attraction that you cannot access by boat.
Is this something that we should be trying to go through? The gentleman that was here that.
I've talked to Alan about it, yeah, several times.
Yeah,
He knows that's part of our list.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's,
Definitely want to put that on our wish list.
From
grants.
I've wished,
I know. We've tried to get grants for that dock before, as a matter of fact.
I'm hoping this is, to me, this is one of the neatest projects we have besides the groins, because, we never received any beach money, beach renourishment money. Something
Never had.
important everybody remembers is that.
Never had.
We have never received a dime of those millions and millions of dollars that get spent, so, $1 million to replace those beach groins, like Alan was alluding to earlier, that's a big deal, and it's gonna really, really improve the aesthetic, the look of the beach. Fire chief, just so you know, I probably should have brought it up then, we're working towards that as a staff already. Chief flies the beach once a month for me, takes a video of it. Our beach changes constantly.
Absolutely.
Constantly. So along with Alan Susky, the other stuff we have, the documentation that we're doing with the fire chief and staff working towards that goal. These are all things that we didn't start on yesterday, that we're trying to get done.
The reason I kind of ask is because, he said we need to come up with a list of things. I don't know what we already have on the list that we want to get done. You're saying that's already on the list.
We'll bring, perhaps that's the best thing for us to do, is just bring that list to you.
Okay, thank you.
With those 5 things, with this budget, that way Alan has direction anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So Dave, do you want to just continue on Archibald?
Sure. Got it. For Archibald Park, I don't believe we have any changes in Archibald Park. Hang on. We have a little bit of extra money in there for the sprinklers, and I believe that's it. I do have, in this year's budget, money allocated to, if you think about the bathrooms at Archibald Park, there's a flower garden out in front of there that runs west and east. And there's only one handicap stall in the bathrooms at Archibald, so they use that stall as a changing room. What we had suggested in last year's budget was to build changing rooms where where that flower bed is. We wouldn't end up losing any parking spaces, and we believe it would help with the flow of the bathroom. We get constant complaints about the bathroom over there. So
That's 15,000 that's in there.
that's 15. Thank you. That's in there to get that done. I don't know if that'll quite do it, but that's one thing that is in there.
Is that
We
just
don't-
2 proposed changing rooms, or how many proposed changing rooms?
I believe we had four.
Four.
I'm trying to picture the plan in my head. I'll try to pull it up as we're talking, but I believe it was four. 2 men's, 2 women's, or unisex, I guess it would be, it doesn't matter.
Sure, yeah. Just make sure the door locks. You can put roofs on them?
Yes, sir.
Why is there 2.75 people in Archibald?
2.75. There is, out of the Archibald, that is those are 2 of our, one of those people are Debbie.
Yeah, thanks.
What is it? It's 2.1, 2.75.
2.75. We can give you a breakdown tomorrow.
I can tell you exactly who it is. I'm not sure off
I mean
the top of
Friday.
my head. I know Debbie is here because she manages the contract.
Right, I go over there all the time, and I never see anybody from the city over there.
I have people from the city over there every single day.
I know, I see
There
the
was,
trash trucks.
I have public works staff over there every single day. We were there for 5 hours today cleaning the shower. So we have public works staff at that facility constantly. We got called in, I got called in at 11 o'clock Sunday night to turn off the water.
Well, I was wondering why the Archibald Park has people in it, yet Johns Pass has 0 people in it.
I think the answer to that is Archibald Park has designated funds.
It's treated as a separate
You
fund.
have to spend those funds from the parking garage, from the parking meters at Archibald Park. And so, having said that, Archibald Park does a lot of parking revenue.
Right. Was there another comment on it?
That's right, the parking revenue for the meters,
It
that's
doesn't have
in
to be
that-
spent at Archibald Park, but it has to be
It
spent
has to
on
be
the
spent
parks.
on a park.
Yeah, a park.
It's 310,000 that's being projected for this budget.
Right, exactly. But again, like Nancy said, it has to be spent on parks.
Right.
Not Archibald Park, but it has to be spent on parks.
So, for the breakdown of the staff, you would like to know who those staff members are?
I'm just confused, because they're not at Archibald all day long, every day. Correct?
We are so thinly staffed here at the city of Madeira Beach that it wouldn't be possible for any of that to occur.
I understand that, but
You know, there's other duties on every single one of our job descriptions, I'd like to say, that kind of says duties as otherwise described.
I understand that, but my question is, these people can't be taken and used for John's Pass.
That's,
But
Okay.
do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, with this being so strictly deed restricted as it is, they can't be used for anything but parks, period. Because you're paying them out of Archibald, and that's what Archibald funds are for. So they couldn't be, you can't take them and use them for parking people. You can't take them and use them in John's Pass. It has to be parks and/or Archibald. That's why my question came up about
Well-
having 2.75 people in Archibald.
On Friday, we can tell you who those people are. I didn't.
well, and I'd like to, I mean, do we know that for a fact, that it's, you know, those people have to be, events set it up this way?
Well,
So-
it's wrong. If those people are working anywhere other than in a park, it's
Okay,
wrong.
but can
It
we
is-
check with somebody else too, so we know?
Yeah, but it is a way, and I'll bring that information on Friday and make that clear. Some of these people, I mean, Dave's salary is charged to 3 and 4 different areas.
I'm in 5 different areas.
The only reason I brought it up is because I know what the deed said. I've read it a million times. I was
Right.
on the Archibald committee, all that. I know how this fund has to work, and that's why it was its own enterprise fund for years. Then I don't know where that ever went away to, but.
I don't believe we're violating anything by what we're doing.
That's what I want to check, to
Yeah.
make sure that we're
Yeah.
not.
I do not believe we're violating the deed or or any of the restrictions that are passed down to us by the parks, the
National
state
parks.
parks, thank you, Commissioner Lister.
Sure.
I honestly do not believe we're in any violation of those things. Vince set up the staff in the different departments. That wasn't done by me, so sorry I didn't have the quick answer that you probably were looking for, but we'll come back with an answer to make sure we're not abusing anything.
We'll let you know on Friday exactly who they are.
Okay, thank you.
And I have noticed in developing the budget, how do I say this right? There are some people being charged in areas, and we're looking into that. I mean, Darrell and I talked about a couple of instances this morning where they're charged here, and you might even hear part of this from Frank, who's next. Some of these people are charged here a portion of their time. Is that really how we want them? Well, for consistency purposes in completing this budget, we've done it the way it's probably done in the past. We probably will be changing some of these in the future.
Okay.
I'd also like to cover in the Archibald Fund, there'll be a capital purchase next year of a vehicle to replace number 36, a 1997 Ford F-250. That's all I have.
Okay, and I think now we're on to building. Frank? Now, I just wanted to say, Frank wanted me to make this clear, that the new Director of Planning and Zoning, and we talk about splitting time, half of the funding of that position is in community development, and the other half is in building. That's the way it's been.
Okay, that's fine. There's not a thing there that says they can't do it that way. It's just that I know how Archibald is supposed to be. So I just want to make sure that that's the way it was.
Okay.
Archibald is a tricky area. We'll look into that and get back to you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I don't know if you had a chance to look through this yet or not, but there's only two changes that are notable in the building fund. And on page 67, the professional services, that $10,000 difference. Again, what Walt said about the money and covering other services as the planning director, I believe that was shifted over, right? And then the second line is the computer software support, and we're paying a large part of that out of the building department for the Munis software. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. Oh, I'm sorry. The $20,000 in capital equipment is for vehicle replacement. It's vehicle number 98, and it's on the next page. Vehicle replacement, number 98, it's a 98 Ford Ranger truck. Do you have any questions for me?
You know, and also, page 66 is where the revenue is, and I'll tell you, trying to figure out, I had this challenge at Indian Shores as well, trying to find out to project the building permits. It's a challenge, and as you can see, the actual came in for 2016, very good, 485,000. We had budgeted 333,000. I'm being really conservative with that 380,000 figure. Chances are that's going to increase, and we hope it increase, but it's a real crapshoot and figure out, trying to forecast what this number would be. And Frank and I have talked about it, and you know, this is a figure that we've come up with, and we feel that it's a conservative figure.
There's as Walt said, there's a couple projects out there that are ready to start. A couple big ones like Madeira Bay, for instance. And I've talked to the architects about those, and they're ready to submit the permits. They're just waiting for other supplemental forms and stuff. But as Walt said, we could have a permit come in tomorrow for $5 million. Or we can have it come in after October 1st for $5 million. So it's hard to hit that target number.
It's beyond our control. We don't control that, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Is this an enterprise fund?
This is a separate fund. This is a building fund that's separate from the general fund, yes.
Well, why is it going and losing money right off the bat for the projection?
Again, the permits is gonna have a large say in what this fund comes in at. It started, as a separate fund in 2016, so it's taken a while to get this fund developed and to keep it going. So,
So where's the backfill come from?
I'm sorry?
What ends up bouncing it out at the end of the year? Where's that money come from?
Well, it would come out of the fund balance for this fund.
Well, when we started the building department back in the city of Madeira Beach, when we let the county stop doing it and the city of Treasure Island stop doing it and making all the money, we decided to put it back here in the city of Madeira Beach to make the money, because if it doesn't pay for itself, we won't continue to do that. It pays for itself more than enough just to, to make the convenience of, when I want a permit, I come to the city of Madeira Beach City Hall. I don't have to go down to the county to pull a permit. I certainly don't want to go to Treasure Island and pull a permit. We have our own building department, which makes it so much more convenient for our residents to come down here and pull a permit. And the building department's paying for itself. When it stops paying for itself, I think that's the time that you can start getting upset. But right now, it's paying for itself more than double, I would say.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Soakley, the answer to your question, there is a fund balance with this fund, and this fund separated out from the general fund just recently. So there is going to be probably about, as the way it stands right now, there'll be $70,000 that comes from this fund balance to fund these activities. Now, we just went over the permits, and that's why I mentioned this figure. This figure is a very conservative figure. This figure, the actual, again, for 2016 for building permits was $485,000. Chances are, it's going to be that. But I want to be conservative in my projection. So that's why it may appear like this thing is in the red, but I'm kind of hoping that we do better. I'm sorry?
That it pulls itself out?
I'm hoping that this figure that I have, this 380, is way under budget. And is more like the 485,000 actual for 2016. And like Frank said, he could have somebody come in and it could be a sizable amount. I faced the same challenge at Indian Shores. I under-budgeted the building. At Indian Shores, the building permits was in the general fund. And it really, I was way low, and it almost tripled in the money that it brought in.
Going through this budget process, I think what you're going to find from Mr. Pierce, same thing as you had with Vince when he was here, that he has estimated our revenue very low, very conservative, and he's estimated our expenses on the high side. So there's a cushion there. So it should balance out each way, and I think Walt's done a very good job trying to balance that out so that with everything that's been asked for here, we're still at the 2.2 mil rate. So.
Thank you for your hard work, Frank.
But Walt, you just budgeted at $70,000 loss right now.
I'm sorry?
You're just budgeting at a loss right now, correct?
the fund balance for that fund will show that it needs 70,000 the way we have it.
Okay.
The last year's budget, it was almost the same figure, and we exceeded, we brought in 485,000. So Vince budgeted and I can see where he came up with this number. He budgeted 333,000, came in at 485.
So basically.
So I'm hoping, just like Vince, I'm budgeting on this on the low end.
So basically, we just have to watch it during the year and see where we're at and what we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm in contact, Frank's office is right next to mine. I mean, I'm in contact, and we're talking about, you know, this on a pretty regular basis. But I see this fund being a very healthy fund. This fund is not in danger at all.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it. Like I said, number six, we will push to Friday. And,
Okay. And then we're adjourned at 4:27.